so yeah.
Hey, what's up guys? It's Cliff from Note Cycles, and today we're going to be putting in Soundstream's new 2014 plus Harley-Davidson touring bike entertainment system in this 2018 Harley-Davidson Street Glide Special. So right here I've got the new Soundstream deck, which is a double din radio with a top-loaded rear chassis, and those of you that have taken your fairing off before may recognize the back of this radio. It looks exactly like factory. So the reason this was done was to achieve a IPX6 marine rating for this head unit, which is the same as your factory head unit, so that it'll withstand any riding conditions that you take your motorcycle through. This new Soundstream device is packed with a 7-inch LCD touchscreen. It has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. It has 50 watt by 4 max power, as well as a 2 ohm stable internal amplifier and a 10-band equalizer. And your new Soundstream head unit will come with a pre-wired harness ready to connect to your motorcycle. And then there's also an optional handlebar control module, which you can select at checkout to maintain your handlebar control functions in your Harley-Davidson motorcycle. Installation will take about an hour, and we're going to show you exactly how to do that today so that you can do it in your garage. So let's get started.
He tried to sell me Cartiers with my crown. We some kings like a card in solitaire, sticking to the script.
Hey everybody, Brian here with Note Cycles. Today we're going to go over how to disassemble the outer fairing on your 2014 and up Harley-Davidson touring motorcycle so that you can install the Soundstream head unit in your garage with just some basic hand tools. Some of the tools that you're going to need to do this installation are a small flathead screwdriver, a Phillips-head screwdriver, a T25 Torx screwdriver, a T27 Torx screwdriver, a pop clip removal tool, a 5/32 Allen socket, a 3/16 Allen socket, and a ratchet wrench. All right, so the first thing we're going to do to get started, we're going to use our microfiber towel here. If you don't have a microfiber towel, just use something to protect your fender. We're gonna go ahead and lay this over the fender to protect the top of it, to protect your painted surface. So now we're gonna move around to the inner fairing and start with the disassembly. So we're on the left-hand side of the motorcycle. There's gonna be 2 screws on each side of the inner fairing that we need to take out. The first one is gonna be down here right above the front turn signal. It's gonna be, like I said, a T27. And then the second one is up further, kind of behind the mirror, behind your left hand controls. So both of these need to come out, and then there's also the same screws on the right hand side of the bike as well. There's one. One thing to take note of, you do have 2 different length screws here. So the longer screw is going to be the top hole, and the shorter screw is going to go in the bottom hole. All right, so we've removed the 2 screws from the left-hand side, removed the 2 screws from the right-hand side of the inner fairing. Now we're going to move to the front of the motorcycle, and there's 3 T27s here across the windshield that we're going to remove next. All right, so we're going to start with the ones on the outside. And then the one in the center is all that's holding the fairing on, so we're just going to loosen it and kind of support the front with my body. And we're going to go ahead and remove the windshield, still holding the fairing. All right, so at this point we can remove the center bolt, and then we can just guide the outer fairing off. And then the only thing left holding it on is your connection for the headlight, and remove the outer fairing. As an additional note, the bolt that we removed from the center is going to be the longer bolt, and then you have the 2 shorter ones on the side. All right, so now that we've gotten into the fairing of the motorcycle, next thing we're going to do is take off this fairing vent. So there's 2 screws. There's one here and one over here. Again, this is a T27 Torx. And then this fairing vent will pull straight out towards you. Customer had the antenna stuck to the bottom there. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and start making clearance to get the caddy here out. So we're gonna go ahead and remove these plugs. And to do that, we're gonna use a pop clip removal. Go ahead and pull those back out of the way. All right, so on top of the radio caddy here, you can see there are 4 screws. These are actually gonna be a T25 Torx. Next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna grab our T25 Torx, and right here under the caddy, there is 1 screw right here that we're gonna go ahead and remove. And then we're also gonna go ahead and remove, there's 3 screws for the gauge cluster. One right here in the top. And 1 over here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and remove, there's 2 screws here and 2 screws over here. We're gonna use a 5/32 Allen with a ratchet. All right, so now we have the radio caddy loosened up. So to get it completely out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and remove all of the connections off the back of the factory radio. Try a pair of needle nose pliers just to gently pinch. And then we just give it a little pull. All right, so go ahead and pull those out of the way. And then on our factory Harley connector, all we're gonna do is push down, and then this whole thing slides, and then you can just pull it right out. So now that we have all of our other wires out of the way, just give the radio tray a nice little pull, and it will come right out of the way. Along with that, you can see that our main gauge cluster is now loose. All right, we'll grab our small flathead screwdriver and gently pry the tabs back. And release our connection for the gauge cluster, and then we can pull it out of the way. All right, now the next step is there are 4 more bolts, 1 here in the back. There's actually 4 of them, 2 on each side. We're gonna grab our 3/16 Allen, and we'll go ahead and take these out. All right, now that all of those bolts are out, we can lift the factory head unit up and out of the motorcycle. All right, so let's go ahead and start with the installation of our new Soundstream head unit. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna grab just the chassis here. We're gonna lift this stuff up out of the way and slide the unit right into where the factory one sat. We're gonna grab the 4 bolts that were retaining the factory head unit. Go ahead and get these in place. All right, we'll just go around and give these a nice little snug. right, there we go. We're gonna grab our wiring harness next, and you'll see that you have factory plugs on both ends. So we'll go ahead and find the Harley side of the motorcycle harness, and we're gonna push that in and then lock it into place. And then the other factory harness, and push it in, lock it into place, and you heard it snap into position. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do, we're gonna grab our gauge cluster. Go ahead and secure that back into place. And we'll get the tray that goes on top of the radio. We're gonna work this in, move all these wires out of the way. There we go. Get all of our holes lined up here on the sides. And then you'll notice the holes line up on top of the radio itself. So we'll go ahead and use the 4 bolts that came off of the top of the radio tray. And go ahead and reinstall those. And we're just going to leave them a little loose for right now until we get everything started, so we make sure all the holes line up. All right, we have our 1 screw here under the caddy. And then our 4 bolts on the sides. And then we have 2 more here at the back that held on our bottom of our gauge cluster. All right, now we can go around and give everything a final tighten. That's one of the great things about this kit is it does utilize all of this factory hardware. All right. Now we're just going to go ahead and finish making our connections. We have the connector here for the gauge cluster. There's a little locating pin on one side that's going to go on the bottom. So I'm just going to push that until it snaps. And then we'll finish up making the connections to our radio. So the first thing we're going to do is the factory USB that's coming here out of the glove box is going to be this first connection here. When we're looking at, here's the factory main harness, USB is going to be right there. Literally click it on. Here's the antenna wire. The second connection is going to be your AM/FM antenna. Continuing down, you have your RCAs. If your situation needs those, they have little protective covers on it, so that's really nice. And then the last plug is this microphone jack, and the kit does come with an included microphone and a couple of different mounting options. Either has the C-style clip or the little sticky pad with the pedestal type connector. So all you would have to do is simply click that together, and then Soundstream recommends that you mount the microphone, just run it up on top of the fairing vent, right behind the windshield. It does have a really nice windscreen covering on it, and I mean, you can see the size of the microphone there. But they do recommend, if you are going to use this option, mount it up here behind the windshield. That'll be the best chance to reduce the wind and the road noise. This customer does not want that option. So we're gonna include this with the stuff to go home with them, but we're not gonna connect it at this time. The other thing that's already connected is you'll see the handlebar control module is already in line there. That's literally all the connections. You have the main harness, the USB, and the AM/FM, and then the microphone if you choose. So easy install from that aspect. I'm gonna go ahead and put the connectors back on top of the tray. So let's go ahead and we'll move around to the other side. We'll power up the unit and make sure that everything's working before we reinstall the outer fairing. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll put the bike in accessory power. Wow, that came up really fast. You see the Soundstream logo there. All right, so now we're in the home screen. And so you can see we have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you got your AM/FM radio, USB, Bluetooth, phone calls, all of that. Go to the radio. You see that our hand control module that we had plugged in, it works automatically right out of the box. Let's go ahead and do a quick Apple CarPlay test. So we're gonna hook the phone into the USB in the cubby here. First time you do this, you'll have to hit to say allow so that the phone and the head unit will talk to each other. As you can see, it pulled Pandora up right away. Hit the little dots there. It takes us back to the home screen of Apple CarPlay. So see phone, music, maps, several pages of different apps there. We have Pandora, Amazon Music, Waze, Google Maps, whatever Apple CarPlay or Android Auto compatible apps that you like to use, they're going to be right there for you. If we want to toggle and go back to the AM/FM radio, all we got to do is push in the home button on the left-hand control. We go right back to AM/FM. You have your volume up, volume down. You can hit the button one more time, go switch right back to Apple CarPlay. Then you have all of your different apps there. We'll put on some music. So the wallpaper here in Apple CarPlay, you can change that in the settings menu. The other thing that this Soundstream unit also allows you to do is you can change the backlighting color of the buttons. You have a 10-band EQ equalizer, all sorts of great features in this head unit they're right at the touch of your finger and very user-friendly, especially if you're used to Apple CarPlay in your other vehicles. Be a really great addition to your motorcycle. All right, so now we've tested the head unit. We know that everything works. We can go ahead and finish up a reassembly. So we'll get our fairing vent here. Again, there's little slots here on each side and there's tabs up under here. So we're just gonna line those up and then that pops right into. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put our screw back in on each side to secure the fairing vent. All right, let's go ahead and get our outer fairing. Don't forget to connect your headlight. And then we're gonna tuck this back up in. Make sure that we're nice and lined up. And go ahead and slide our windshield back into place. And again, we're gonna start with the long bolt in the middle. Put that one on finger tight. And then we'll start the two on the side. Make sure we get everything nice and lined up. And we'll snug these up. Now we'll move to the sides and finish by putting the 2 screws in each side. All right, so if you remember from when we disassembled, you have a longer and a shorter one. The longer one is going to go up top and the shorter one is going to go on the bottom hole. So we're going to start with the shorter one. I'm just going to nice and snug, doesn't have to be overly tight. All right, those 2 are in place, so let's move around to the other side and do the last 2. All right, so smaller bolt on the bottom. and longer bolt on the top. All right, that's it. All right, thanks everybody for hanging out with us today while we installed this new Soundstream head unit in this 2018 Street Glide Special. If you want to pick one of these up for your 14 and up touring motorcycle, go ahead and head over to the shop at www.notecycles.com.